So a Chinese company just posted a 40-second clip of a robot dog, and I have watched it way too many times at this point. On July 24th, 2026, Unitree dropped this video, and it did the thing where it stops being a robotics video and just becomes something everyone starts sending each other. In the clip, this four-legged machine is breakdancing. Actual b-boy moves, dropping down, spinning, popping back up. And then, a second later, it's rolling across broken ground on wheels and jumping up an 80-centimeter ledge like the ledge isn't even there. No camera cuts, no CGI. That's a real machine. And they're selling it. And here's the part that got me. This same little robot moves faster than you can sprint. It can hold a grown adult's worth of weight, and it costs roughly half of the famous American robot dog that everyone already knows. You put those three facts next to each other, and that's the whole reason the clip took off. It landed on people's feeds, whether they follow robotics or not. So by the end of this video, I promise you're going to understand why people who watch this space are calling it a turning point, and why it honestly has very little to do with one robot. If you're into this kind of thing, do me a quick favor and hit subscribe before we get going, because this world is moving fast and I break down every big drop right here. Okay? Let's start with what this thing even is. Unitree calls it the AS2 W, and they've nicknamed it the Super Athlete. If you don't know the name Unitree, they're the Chinese company that's basically been flooding the internet with robot dogs for years now. The ones you've seen dancing at concerts, doing backflips, showing up in every "The Future is Here" clip. The AS2 W is their newest one, and the big idea is right there in the design. It's a wheel-legged robot. So instead of just four legs like a normal robot dog, or just wheels like a little rover, every single leg has a wheel on the end of it. And it gets to choose. On smooth ground, it rolls, which is fast and barely uses any battery. The moment it hits stairs, rubble, gravel, a ledge, whatever, it walks. And it swaps between the two on its own, mid-move, without stopping. That's the trick the whole robot is built around. Let me hit you with the specs, because a couple of them are genuinely wild. Speed first. This thing does over 6 meters per second. If that number means nothing to you, put it this way. That's around 13 miles an hour. It is faster than you can run. Then there's the jump. It clears an 80-centimeter step. That's about 2.5 feet straight up from a standstill. For a machine this size, that's the part that made me rewind. Now the size. It weighs about 25 kilos, so roughly 55 pounds. That matters more than it sounds like, because it means one person can pick this thing up and carry it. And while it's walking around, it can haul about 16 kilos on its back. If it just plants itself and braces, the spec sheet says it can take 150 kilos. That's a full-grown person standing on top of it. On top of all that, it runs for about 3 hours and covers 30 kilometers on a charge. It's got industrial-grade LiDAR so it can see the world in 3D. And it's built to work in rain and dust and temperatures from -20 all the way up to 55 Celsius. Oh, and one term you'll hear. It's got 16 joint motors. In robotics, those are called degrees of freedom, which is just a fancy way of saying the number of separate ways it can bend and move. 16 is enough for it to stay balanced, doing stuff that honestly looks like it shouldn't be possible. Now, if you already follow this stuff, you might be thinking, hold on, Unitree already made a wheel-legged dog. And you'd be right. It's called the B2W, and it's a beast. 85 kilos, carries over 40 kilos on its back. But that thing is big, expensive, and a real job to move around. What they did with the AS2 W is take that whole idea and shrink it. Same concept, about a third of the weight. And here's the kicker. The smaller one actually jumps higher than its giant older brother, 80 centimeters versus 40. It's doing more with way less muscle, and that comes down to smarter software, not bigger motors. And that software part is worth slowing down on, because it's the actual story here. Older robots were programmed one step at a time. Do this, then this, then this, forever. The AS2 W learns to move more like you teach a puppy. It runs through millions of rounds of trial and error inside a simulation until it just works out balance on its own. That's why the movement looks so smooth and almost animal-like, instead of that stiff, jerky robot shuffle we've all been laughing at for a decade. Nobody hand-wrote the breakdancing. It taught itself how to stay up. Here's the thing. I really want you to walk away with, though. This isn't just a Unitree story. There's another Chinese company, Deep Robotics, and their robot, the Lynx M20, is almost the exact same machine. Same size class, same jumping height, same wheel leg design. So you've got two companies racing each other, pushing these things out fast and cheap. When two competitors land on the same breakthrough at the same time, that's usually the sign a whole industry just shifted gears. Now for the part that really lit the clip up. The robot dog most people in the West actually know is Boston Dynamics' Spot. The yellow one, from all those famous YouTube videos. Spot is the gold standard, no argument. But Spot is legs only. It tops out around 1.5 meters per second. It runs about an hour and a half, and it starts at $74,500. A full setup with sensors and a service contract climbs into the hundreds of thousands. Now the AS2 W. Unitree hasn't put an official price on it yet. The site literally just says, contact sales. But every report out there puts it around $37,000. So think about what that means. You've got a machine that's faster, runs twice as long, rolls on wheels when it wants to, jumps higher, and costs about half. The second people saw those two price tags side by side, that's when the whole thing blew up. So zoom out with me for a second, because this is way bigger than one cool robot. 2 years ago, these things were clumsy lab experiments tripping over their own feet. Now there are multiple companies mass-producing robot dogs that move like athletes, priced like a car, and selling them for real work. Inspecting factories, patrolling sites at night, hauling gear across ground that a wheeled robot could never handle. The moment a piece of tech gets cheap and genuinely good at the same time, it stops being a demo you watch and starts being a thing that shows up everywhere. That's the line we just crossed. Do I have some hesitation? A little, yeah. When capable machines get this cheap, they don't just end up in warehouses. They end up everywhere, and that includes places I'm less thrilled about, like surveillance and policing. And Unitree being a Chinese company means there's a whole data and security conversation attached that I'm not going to sit here and pretend is simple. That's real, and it's worth keeping an eye on. But mostly, I'm impressed. This is clever engineering solving a genuinely hard problem, and they pulled it off at a price where regular businesses can actually afford one. That's the part that gets me. So I want to hear from you. A fast, cheap robot dog that can walk, roll, and jump. Is that a future you're excited about, or one that gives you a little chill? Drop it in the comments, and if you got something out of this, go ahead and smash that like button and subscribe, because this stuff is moving unbelievably fast, and I'll be right here breaking down whatever drops next.